3848. Susceptibility to carbon monoxide poisoning increases as A. Altitude increases. B. Altitude decreases. C. Air pressure increases. The correct answer is A. Carbon monoxide, CO, is a colorless and odorless gas that can be present in the exhaust gases of aircraft engines or other combustion sources. At higher altitudes, the air pressure decreases, which means there is less oxygen available for proper combustion. This can result in incomplete combustion and higher concentrations of carbon monoxide in the exhaust gases. When an aircraft is operating at higher altitudes, such as during climb or cruise, the cabin is typically pressurized to maintain a comfortable environment for the occupants. However, if there is a leakage or malfunction in the exhaust or heating systems, carbon monoxide can enter the cabin. Since the concentration of oxygen is already reduced at higher altitudes, the presence of carbon monoxide can further impair the body's ability to transport oxygen, leading to an increased risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. It's important for pilots and passengers to be aware of the potential sources of carbon monoxide in the aircraft and to use carbon monoxide detectors to monitor the cabin environment. Proper maintenance of the aircraft's exhaust and heating systems is also crucial in preventing carbon monoxide leaks. 3850. The danger of spatial disorientation during flight in poor visual conditions may be reduced by A. Shifting the eyes quickly between the exterior visual field and the instrument panel. B. Having faith in the instruments rather than taking a chance on the sensory organs. C. Leaning the body in the opposite direction of the motion of the aircraft. The correct answer is B. Spatial disorientation occurs when there is a mismatch between the pilot's perception of the aircraft's position, attitude, or motion and the actual state of the aircraft. This can be especially challenging during flight in poor visual conditions, such as fog, clouds, or low visibility. The sensory organs, including the inner ear, can be easily fooled by misleading sensations, especially in the absence of visual references. Relying solely on sensory inputs can lead to spatial disorientation and potentially dangerous flight maneuvers. To mitigate the risk of spatial disorientation, pilots are trained to rely on their flight instruments, which provide accurate and objective information about the aircraft's attitude, altitude, and heading. By trusting the instruments and cross-checking the information, pilots can maintain control of the aircraft and avoid the pitfalls of sensory illusion. 3851. A lack of orientation with regard to the position, attitude, or movement of the aircraft in space is defined as A. Spatial disorientation. B. Hyperventilation. C. Hypoxia. The correct answer is A. Spatial disorientation occurs when a pilot's perception of their position, attitude, or movement in space is inconsistent with the actual state of the aircraft. It is often caused by a combination of factors, including poor visibility, lack of visual references, and reliance on sensory inputs that can be misleading or conflicting. Spatial disorientation can be a dangerous condition as it can lead to incorrect flight control inputs and a loss of control of the aircraft. Pilots who are experiencing spatial disorientation may have difficulty accurately interpreting their sensations and may not be aware of the true orientation of the aircraft. To mitigate the risk of spatial disorientation, pilots undergo training in instrument flying techniques and rely on flight instruments to provide accurate and objective information about the aircraft's attitude, altitude, and heading. Maintaining proficiency in instrument flying and developing a strong reliance on the instruments can help pilots overcome the challenges of spatial disorientation and ensure safe flight operations. 3852. Pilots are more subject to spatial disorientation if A. They ignore the sensations of muscles and inner ear. B. Visual cues are taken away, as they are in instrument meteorological conditions, IMO. C. Eyes are moved often in the process of cross-checking the flight instruments. The correct answer is B. Visual cues play a crucial role in providing pilots with information about their position, attitude, and movement in space. When visual cues are limited or completely removed, such as an IMC where visibility is reduced, pilots rely heavily on their instruments to maintain accurate orientation. In the absence of visual references, the risk of spatial disorientation increases. Without visual cues, the body's sensory systems, including the sensations of muscles and inner ear, may provide conflicting or misleading information to the pilot. This can result in a loss of spatial awareness and an increased susceptibility to spatial disorientation. To mitigate the risk, pilots undergo specialized training in instrument flying and develop proficiency in interpreting and relying on their flight instruments. By focusing on the instruments and disregarding misleading sensations, pilots can maintain accurate orientation and mitigate the effects of spatial disorientation, especially in situations where visual cues are limited or absent. 3853. If a pilot experiences spatial disorientation during flight in a restricted visibility condition, the best way to overcome the effect is to A. Rely upon the aircraft instrument indications. B. Concentrate on yaw, pitch, and roll sensations. C. Consciously slow the breathing rate until symptoms clear and then resume normal breathing rate. The correct answer is A. Spatial disorientation can occur when a pilot's sensory inputs provide conflicting or misleading information about the aircraft's position, attitude, or movement. In situations of restricted visibility, such as in instrument meteorological conditions, IMC, visual cues are limited or absent, making it difficult for the pilot to maintain accurate spatial awareness. To overcome spatial disorientation, pilots are trained to rely upon the aircraft's instrument indications. The instruments provide objective and reliable information about the aircraft's attitude, heading, altitude, and airspeed, regardless of external visual references. By focusing on the instruments and disregarding misleading sensations, pilots can maintain accurate orientation and make the appropriate control inputs to safely navigate the aircraft. Concentrating on yaw, pitch, and roll sensations or consciously altering the breathing rate will not provide a reliable solution to spatial disorientation. The key is to trust and rely upon the instruments, which are designed to provide accurate and objective information about the aircraft's flight parameters.